Hi everyone, today we're making meatball and tomato soup. This is a really nice recipe, perfect for winter on the cold days. Serve it with a crusty bread or scone dough, whatever you like. First of all, you need to be organised. Wash your hands for 20 seconds in hot soapy water. Have your long hair tied back. Make sure you have a clean apron on and make sure that you have some clean tea towels and dishcloths available ready to use. First things, of course, is to be organised in your workspace. So have all of your ingredients out ready to go and some main equipment that you think you might need as well. On my stovetop behind me, I have the soup pot out and also the fry pan ready to go. First of all, collect all the ingredients and we'll put them just here. You might like to pause the video so that you can copy them down or screenshot it, and then it might be easier for you to collect all the ingredients. First of all, I'm actually going to put the capsicum in the oven first. So you need to have one capsicum and with a sharp knife, just trim it into pieces. Then place them on a baking tray and you can just spray it with a little bit of olive oil. And place these into the oven for probably maybe 10 minutes, but just until the skin is blistered and it's easy to peel. When you take it out of the oven, wrap it in foil, and then when it's cool, the skin will peel off really easily. The next step is to make the meatballs. So first of all, make sure you collect all the ingredients. So I've got 250 grams of pork mince. I've got some Parmesan cheese, which I will grate up, some salt and pepper, some oil, an egg, and a clove of garlic. So for this part of the recipe, you just put it all into the bowl. So there's my mince. Need to crack my egg. Need to, just with the microplane grater, grate the garlic, and you can also grate the Parmesan cheese as well. Just give that a sharp tap. I'm going to use the same microplane grater for the Parmesan. Grate that. Watch your fingers. You need about 2 tablespoons. I'm just going to guess. I think that's about right. Same thing. Sharp tap. Scoop it up. And in. Salt and pepper for flavour. And you also need breadcrumbs. Now I'm going to make my own breadcrumbs. You might have some already in your fridge or freezer, or you might have just some purchased ones. With me, I'm just going to buzz mine up in my food processor. If you don't have a food processor, I'm just using the crusts of my bread. If you don't have a food processor, you can get milk and put a couple of tablespoons of milk into your bread, let it soak for a few minutes, then squish it up with a fork, and that is a good alternative to food processing. I'll just buzz mine up now. Okay, so here's my breadcrumbs, blended up, straight into a 1/2 cup measure, into the bowl. The rest of it can be frozen for use at another time. And you also need some flat leaf parsley. Just pick the leaves off, give it a wash, scrunch it all up, and then just dice that up nice and finely. Sticking to my fingers because it's all wet still. I did pat it down with a paper towel, but a little bit of moisture on it won't matter. Okay, then into the bowl. Now you can just get your hands straight in there. Make sure your hands are clean. I have a glove that I'm going to use just because I don't really like the meat in my fingernails, which is a bit gross. And just squish it up. Combine all of your ingredients. Now, of course, if you want to increase the quantity of this soup, you can double it, however many people you'd like to feed. Also, it freezes well, so whatever you don't eat, you can freeze and save it for lunch for another day. I've just got my capsicum out of the oven, and as you can see, it's blistered and sizzling. So with some tongs, place it onto some foil. Be careful, it's really hot. And wrap the capsicum up. And then the steam that you keep trapped in here will make it a lot easier to peel later, plus they'll cool down. Now I've started rolling my meatballs. I've been using a 1 teaspoon measuring spoon to make them all roughly the same size. Helps if your hands are wet. Just got a little bowl of water here. So get about a small teaspoon measure, roll it in your wet hands and place on a plate. Yep. And you do that until you've made all your meatballs. Don't make the meatballs too big because remember this is a soup and you don't want to be biting into meatballs and eating awkwardly. So the smaller the better, nice small bite-sized pieces. Okay, so there's all my meatballs. I made 40 all up in the end. Now you can cover them and put them in the fridge while you make the soup component, or just set them aside on the bench. Now with the soup component, you need some diced tomatoes. You need your red capsicum, which I'll show you how to peel in just a moment. An onion, which needs to be diced up. Some butter, cloves of garlic, salt and oregano. And some macaroni pasta I'm using, or you could reuse risotto, which is what's suggested in the recipe. The next thing to do is to chop up your onion. So trim off the end, put the flat surface down, cut it in half, peel off the skin. I've diced up one half already, and then with the other half, just do the same thing. So remember, keep your fingers curled under, leave that root end on, cut all the way, or nearly to the end, as thin as you can, then turn it round and cut back the other way. So you get a nice fine dice. Have a bowl handy. And you can just place that all in a bowl. And that needs to be kept separate because that will get sauteed first when we head over to the stove in just a minute. Okay, then with your garlic, peel it, microplane grater, or the small side of a normal grater. Watch out for your fingers. Watch out for my guard dog. Put a cap on the bench. And also just into a bowl. Now with your capsicum, you should be ready to peel now. So open it up. And the skin will hopefully just peel off really nice and easily. And you've got beautiful roasted sweet capsicum. Will add a beautiful flavour to this soup. Okay, you can discard the skin. And then we just dice up the capsicum into strips one way and then back the other. And do that for all the pieces. I'm over at the stove top now and I'm going to preheat my pan with some oil and some butter. So you need 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And you need about 20 grams of butter. Melt your butter, but don't let it burn. Stir it around with a wooden spoon. And when that's at a nice heat, add your onion and let that saute until it is nice and translucent. Don't walk away from it, so make sure you've got all your other ingredients close by. That needs to cook for 3 to 4 minutes on a nice medium heat, sizzling but not burning. I'm going to add the garlic now and let that cook just for a minute or 2. Remember, don't burn your garlic. It creates a really bitter, not very nice flavour if you burn your garlic. Now with the canned tomatoes, if it's got a ring pull tin, get your fingers under the pull it right back, spin it round and very carefully pull it back the other way. Careful not to cut your fingers. Discard of that, that's really sharp. Okay, and that can go straight in to some onion. For me, I've got two 400-gram tins, or you might have a 800-gram tin of tomatoes. You also need to add your 2 cups of water. You need to add a 1/4 teaspoon of oregano. It's a bit hard to measure, so I'm just going to guess. And you need about 1/4 teaspoon of salt as well. Okay, and some pepper. I'm going to add pepper. It doesn't say to, but I love pepper, so I'm adding pepper into mine. Now you need to bring this to the boil. Put the lid on and turn down the heat so it simmers for 20 minutes. Okay, my next step is to cook my meatballs in a fry pan. So I have a large fry pan here. I'll put in 1 tablespoon of oil and just spreading that round and preheating my pan. When that's nice and hot, I will add some meatballs. I'm not going to cook them all at once. I'm just going to do a few, maybe a third at a time, and do it in 3 different batches. So just place them on. Be careful if you're using your hands like I am. They'll start to sizzle, and they'll need a couple of minutes. Actually, I can probably do half. I'll do half. Do it in 2 batches. They've been cooking for a couple of minutes now, so I'm just going to turn them over. I haven't turned them at all, so it's important to let them cook well on one side before you touch them. If you play with them too much, they could just fall apart. So you want them to keep their shape. So just really gently turn them over one by one and let them cook on their other side. I have a plate with paper towel ready. So when they're ready, I'll place the cooked meatballs on the paper towel. My soup here is simmering away with the lid on. Just stir that every now and then with a wooden spoon. Okay, these first batch are ready, so I'm just going to pop them on the paper towel. I'm going to then wipe out the pan so it's clean again, put fresh oil in, and cook the second batch of meatballs. Alright, you'll get a much nicer result if you wipe the pan out. Just be careful, it's really hot, so I'm just got paper towel. Do it over the sink will be better. Pan back on, oil. The pan will be nice and hot, so it won't take very long for that oil to heat up. And just place your second batch straight in. Okay, after 20 minutes of simmering, I'm now going to add my chopped up capsicum and my pasta, and I'll set the timer for 5 minutes, and this time I'll leave the lid off. My timer just went off after the 5 minutes, and I'm just using a potato masher just to break down that tomato a little bit more. And now I'm going to add my meatballs, and these will cook for 10 minutes. Just gently lower them in and then set your timer again for 10 minutes. Once this is simmering, this is a good time to get a clean spoon and taste the sauce in the meatball soup. You might need to add maybe a little bit of brown sugar to sweeten it a little bit. Tomato can be a bit bitter. You might want to add a bit more salt and pepper. So taste it and then make some flavour adjustments. Okay, my soup is ready. Now, when I did my flavour adjustments, I actually added a teaspoon of chicken stock powder, and that actually made a really nice difference. So I recommend adding a teaspoon of chicken stock powder. Time to serve up. Have a bowl ready, soup spoon, ladle it in. Okay, remember this is very hearty, so you don't need a huge serve. Got some basil leaves to just tear up and put on top for some extra flavour. Basil goes beautiful with tomato, and just a little bit of extra parmesan to go on top as well. And there you have it, beautiful meatball and tomato soup.